For the 12th night in a row, a coast-to-coast call to action. Turning violent in Portland, Oregon, where police clashed with protesters well into the night. And in Seattle, where police appeared to clear protesters with flashbangs after the police chief ordered the suspension of tear gas and crowd control Friday. But those violent outbursts that often overshadow the beginning of this national inflection point, now mostly absent. Waves of peaceful protest marched on, bigger than ever before.
No more silence.
From Washington's newly named Black Lives Matter Plaza to San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge to Philadelphia, where one couple even stopped to get married. Meanwhile, police in Buffalo defending a use of force after two officers were caught pushing 75-year-old Martin Gugino to the ground so hard he lay bleeding. Officers Robert McCabe and Aaron Tolgalski pleaded not guilty and were released on bail to the sound of cheers from fellow officers. In a show of support, 57 officers resigned from the Buffalo Emergency Response Team but remained on the police force. And as the protests surged across the world in his name, the family of George Floyd held a memorial in his memory.
In his living and in his dying, he has pleased God. He has woke all of us up.
At a public viewing, thousands lined the streets of Rayford, North Carolina, where Floyd was born, just for a glimpse.
Going in there realizing that could be me, that could be my father, that could be my friend Rob, that could be anybody who looks like me.
We spoke to Floyd's grieving siblings.
I mean, that's our baby brother. And I can't go in and see him laying in a coffin. It would drive me crazy forever.
Justice for Breed! Justice for Breed!
Meanwhile, the family of Breonna Taylor held a massive vigil in Louisville to acknowledge her 27th birthday. Taylor was shot and killed in her home during a police raid in March. Family, friends, and those fighting in her name ended the day by filling the sky with balloons, a belated birthday celebration for a lost loved one, shared with a cry for justice.
You know, we've got this stuff with people protesting all over the country now with George Floyd and everything. You got any thoughts about that?
Definitely. First of all, I see God in the mix here. I think it's some plan that he has going on. And first of all, this is something that never happened. I'm 86, never happened in my lifetime, right? This is the first time we had, now here's some kind of disease that's all over the country.
The world.
All over the world. And what does it do? It stops everything. I mean, it stops everything. It's nothing that effective that I could have conceived of or you could have conceived of. Nobody could do it other than God. Nobody would have accepted it. You know, I mean, the way it happened, everybody had to accept it. So it got everybody's attention. And then, even though you say George Floyd, he just happened to be the person to use
right
at that time. Because then all of a sudden, look at in 2 weeks, look what, you know, I mean, I was amazed when I look at the thing, they said, oh, they got Black Lives Matter marches in Sydney, Australia, in Perth, Australia, in Berlin, in another city in Germany, in France, in England, in, you know, London and so, all over the world.
Yeah.
Just like that. And who could come up with anything that would be like that and, you know, spread around the world just like that. And
it is amazing to see.
It is, and it happened. I don't think without the pandemic it wouldn't have happened. You know, if we didn't have the pandemic and what was involved in that this whole thing with the protest marches, I don't think it would have happened.
It's like people can't look away from the injustices.
Right. And you know.
And also, you forgot to mention the other factor in the mix, Who the president of the United States is.
Yeah, but and I guess he puts fuel on the fire. But the other thing, and look, just when you got all these marches, everybody's wearing a mask.
Yeah.
A lot of times you can't tell certainly can't tell who it is. You can't tell whether it's black or white or what have you. But this fact that it's more white than black, and especially in places like Germany and and London and Australia and all those other places, and it's not just big cities. I mean, they had marches down here. There's a place near here called Keansburg. You probably know.
I know Keansburg.
And, people think of that as not being sympathetic to black, and they had marches there and almost everywhere. So it's a lot of little places around the country, and I'm sure around the world, where people have come out. And they got signs saying, Black Lives Matter, enough is enough, and so on. And so I don't think anybody could have brought all that about except God.
Perfect storm.